seats. We're going to begin our civic forum for the afternoon. My name is Jen Lemberger, and I am a librarian here at the Central Library. So thank you for being here with us and with the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara. A couple library announcements before we get to the League items. One of the things, if you do not already have the library calendar of adult and teen events, there are some on the back table with the other League materials. So this is all of May. If you want the children's schedule, that's downstairs. There's just too much going on to fit on one piece of paper, so we have to print two calendars for that. Two events that we have coming up that I did specifically want to mention. The library is continuing to do resource and information provision after our Thomas Fire and mud debris flows. So this coming Sunday, our regular Master Gardener's workshop is all about fire-safe landscaping. So the 3 R's, defensible space, and just how with anyone who has property and has structures on that property can do their best to make sure that in an incident like we had, that it is as easily protected as it can be in such a situation. And then as well, next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., we are hosting several of our trail associations, the Santa Barbara County Trail Association, the Montecito Trail Foundation, the Santa Barbara Mountain Bike Volunteers, and the Los Padres Forest Association. And those are our organizations that have always sort of done the piecemeal, fantastic work of maintaining our trails. And they've been working with our government institutions to make a plan of moving forward with our front country trails and their restoration. So Wednesday, they will be presenting what that plan is, what it'll look like moving forward, and also talking about ways people can give of their time and their money to help in that trail restoration. It will be a long process, but they are going about it in a way that hopefully will not only restore the trails, but will make them safer and more easily restored if we ever encounter situations like this. So if you're interested in learning about our trails, please join us next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m., also here at Faulkner. So lots of things upcoming. Pick up the calendar because there's all sorts of stuff that I didn't even mention that are fantastic. If you want to come on Friday when the 1 p.m. we're showing Black Panther if you haven't seen it already. So come on out, bring your lunch, and hang out with us. But in the meantime, we're so thrilled to have this continuing partnership with League of Women Voters and be able to have this fantastic panel here talking about one of the most important institutions we have in town, our Santa Barbara City College, which we are lucky to have, and we're lucky to have within the California system. And so with that, I will introduce Lindsey Baker, the co-president for advocacy of the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara.
Welcome. I was just reading my notes and it said, please check your cell phones and make sure they're turned off. Mine wasn't, so I just turned it off. We would like to thank the Santa Barbara Public Library for co-sponsoring this forum with the League of Women Voters, also Gary Atkins Sound System, and anyone, okay. This forum is being recorded by TVSB and will be available on Channel 17. You may check on their website under On Demand and then under Video. Then you can check their schedule to see when this video will be aired in English at this point. It is also being simultaneously streamed to Facebook. It will be on our league website, lwvsantabarbara.org, where all our past forums are posted in English and Spanish. If you are interested in learning more about the league or want to join the League of Women Voters, you can speak to Bev at the back table. Also, this Saturday is our annual meeting for the League of Women Voters. And if you haven't signed up yet, you can talk to Bev and pay and get your registration and find the location of the event on Saturday at 10 o'clock. 9:30, 10 o'clock? 9:30. 9:30 starts at 9:45. I would like to thank Bill Marx, Roxana Anson, Irene Stone, Marge Gordon, and Linda Reimel for putting this together. At your seats are a slip of paper from the library asking how you heard about this event, which is helpful to know, and also an index card so that you could write questions. We will go through all our speakers today and have the question and answer period at the end. So if you have a question, you can jot it down and not be afraid of losing your question. The League of Women Voters has what we have in the past called unit meetings. They're small discussion groups. Going forward, they will be called discussion groups. And we're contemplating having a book club as well, talking about issues that the League of Women Voters support. We will have a clipboard at the back table if you are interested in signing up, and we will get in touch with you regarding the book club for next fall. Also, the League of Women Voters California has posted their positions on the propositions. And at both tables at the back are copies of the League's positions if you'd like to use those as a reference for the upcoming election on June 5th. So I think that's all our announcements today. And we will resume our forums next September. We don't have forums June, July, and August. So Bill Marx is the chairperson of the Education Committee, and he will be your moderator today.
Yes, I'm Bill Marx. I'm moderating, and I'm also the chair of the League's Education Committee. What is the evolving role of Santa Barbara City College as a California community college? To answer that question, we have a panel comprising members of the administration, the faculty, and the student body, to say nothing of the head of the Santa Barbara City College Foundation to round out the picture. In the last 2 years, the League has presented forums on early childhood learning and K through 12, so we have made it to college in a scant 3 years, a remarkable achievement for any organization other than the Santa Barbara League of Women Voters. This great leap forward was prompted by the State League's 2016 study of higher education, the results of which you can get online. That study found that California's three-tiered system of community colleges, state universities, and UC campuses was failing to graduate enough students with baccalaureate degrees to meet public demand, and especially the demand from employers. The California League subsequently adopted policies, which are found online, aimed to speed up the transition from community college up through the state college system and ultimately to the university and its graduate students, programs, in order to meet that demand. How well these recommendations are being followed is one of the questions we have before us, along with how well Santa Barbara City College is prepared to accomplish its central and very complex mission, which the California League defines as follows, and I quote, "To prepare students to transfer to four-year colleges, to provide workplace skills and career development and certification in a wide range of occupations, to offer opportunities for lifelong learning, to engage in programs fostering economic development, and finally, to provide instruction in basic academic skills to those who lack them," that is, those who failed to get them in high school or remediation. So that's a staggering lot of things that our community college is tasked with performing. And to explain how well our city college is prepared to meet the challenge of this daunting mission now and in the years ahead, we will first call on its top executive, Dr. Anthony Beebe. Dr. Beebe comes to us from San Diego City College, where he was recognized as the People's President for his community work. Prior to that, he served for 8 years as president of San Diego's Continuing Education Program, one of the largest in the United States. His early years as a firefighter in Douglas County have clearly prepared him well. Is that Oregon, I believe? In Oregon, have clearly prepared him well for meeting the challenges of his current job as president of Santa Barbara City College. It's yours, Dr. Beebe.
Well, thank you, Bill, for that very generous introduction. There was something that was left out, and that is that I was also president of my second grade class, both times. Yeah. One of the other things that I think is always interesting when I think about my previous career in the fire service is that I always think of myself as being out of that, but that wasn't the case here, recently, obviously, with all the fires and mudslides and everything. I am so pleased to be able to talk about Santa Barbara City College and all the great things we're doing. And it seems like no matter where I go, whether I'm in Vaughn's or wherever, somebody comes up to me and says, Anthony, how's Santa Barbara City College doing? I really like the Promise program, or I really like the adult ed program that we have, the new School of Extended Learning, or some other aspect of it. Or they tell me that they're going to school there, or they've had people that are going, they've had relatives or kids or something go to Santa Barbara City College and be graduates of that. And so, you hear about Kevin Bacon and the 6 degrees of separation. I really think here in Santa Barbara, we're talking about like 2 or 3 degrees of separation. We're all somehow connected through Santa Barbara City College, and that makes me feel really good because we are a community college, and the community is what we're all about when we talk about Santa Barbara City College. So my job here in the next 50 minutes? No, 5 minutes. I just seen if Bill is awake over there, scaring him a little bit. In the next 5 minutes, my timer, okay, is to kind of set the context of community colleges in general, and then how in the higher education system, and then how Santa Barbara City College fits into that higher education landscape, if you will. So we'll just kind of walk our way through this. I have my technology here. One thing I like to do is intersperse my presentation with pictures of our graduates and our students. And I really do like to think of this particular phrase, and that is that we change the world one student at a time. And that is so very true when I think about each one of these students that I've had a chance to get to know. We have a board of 7 individuals here, and you can see each one of them. We have one of our board members right here, and Robert Miller. So thank you for coming, Robert. I appreciate that. We also have another one of our board members, which is our student trustee in Krystle Farmer. And you'll be hearing from Krystle in a little bit. But this is a fantastic group of individuals that really does support what it is that we're trying to accomplish and all of those mission elements that Bill talked about. So just as an overview, I want to talk real briefly about the higher education landscape in the United States, the community college mission, a little bit, which is exactly consistent with what Bill talked about, public higher education landscape itself in California, and then the Santa Barbara City College profile. So in terms of the landscape itself of higher education in the United States, if we go all the way back to the beginning of higher education, these are the first colleges in the United States. And one of the things that's important to understand here is that these first colleges back in the day were highly, highly selective, much more than they are today even. I mean, they're highly selective now, but much more than they are today. And they were really based on teaching clergy. So you were admitted based on some denominational faith. And if you weren't belonging to that particular faith, you really couldn't get into it. It was only Princeton in some of the later dates that allowed people of any denomination to enter its college. But for the most part, it was really strict in terms of how many folks could get in there. Well, if we zoom forward to the 1800s, that created a problem because there were only like 100 and 150 students in those graduating classes. And so they really weren't contributing much to economic growth, solving of applications and real-world problems and things like that. And so we needed some other kind of system. And so what happened was that through the land grant system and the Morrill Act, we created in the United States a public university system that created both state system community colleges and public universities. And so you can see here that San Jose State was the first one in 1857 here in California. And we have any graduates from, yes? All right, we have a representative right there. One of our members of our staff at Santa Barbara City College, so that all ties in. So then if we zoom forward again, we have an invention that's an American invention called junior colleges. And the whole purpose of junior colleges was to prepare students to transfer to those four-year schools that were created. And so you can see these very first community college or junior colleges that we have here, and you can see that Santa Barbara Junior College was created in 1909, and it came about through the K-12 system. And there was a whole bunch of discussion and debate about whether or not they should do this or not, but they decided in 1909 to go ahead and split off Santa Barbara Junior College into its own separate entity. And so that's kind of the roots of Santa Barbara City College. We're still very much connected, though, with the K-12 system. As a matter of fact, we just had a big joint board meeting last night that had the Santa Barbara Unified School District and Carpinteria Unified School District join our trustees in kind of a strategic planning session on how we can move things forward and do a better job of getting students through the higher education system. The comprehensive community college is something different than the junior college. A lot of people kind of mesh the two together. They think, well, a JC and a community college is the same thing. It's not really. Junior college was just about transfer. The comprehensive community college is about transfer, it's about professional technical education, it's about basic skills and developmental education, and it's about this fantastic program that we're going to hear more about, which is community education, adult education, or what we call the School of Extended Learning. But really, truly, the overarching commitment to all of this is that the community college is the public's college. It's the people's college. It's all about having open educational access to anyone that comes to our doors and enables them to come and get an education regardless of what kind of academic history or background or lack thereof that they may have. And that's really why when you think about a comprehensive community college, we're talking about the democratization of higher education and allowing all folks to come to be able to get a degree in whatever they choose. But it's shaped by local needs, and it fosters lifelong learning, so cradle all the way through to the end in terms of education. So the open access to higher education is the most compelling and distinguishing historical element of the American community college, open educational access. It was really quite a movement, if you will, in terms of the development of community colleges. And you can, let me do something here real quick. You can see the development of these community colleges by looking at this little counter down here in the right-hand corner. And you can see from 1901 to 1910, there were only 25 community colleges overall, and you can see Santa Barbara at 1909 was one of the first. And then the next decade, we had 49 new ones and 74 altogether. So if we click through this, we get to the decade of the 60s. So there's the decade of the 50s. You go to the decade of the 60s, you can see that we had almost 500 new community colleges that were started in that decade. Some people say that there was a community college a week that was being built somewhere in the United States. So there was just a massive movement of community colleges that were taking place. And then if we click on through this, we get to the current, which is 1,108 community colleges across the United States. So we have a lot of them in every state. Again, we change the world one student at a time. You know that. So if we now look at California and the public higher education system here in California, we know that we've got 10 UC campuses. We've got 23 CSUs and 114 community colleges. A lot of people may not realize that we have that many of them, but we do. They're covered all around California. In terms of admissions, the UC system accepts 12.5% of their applicants. CSUs, about a third. Anybody want to guess on the community colleges? I love that. Somebody got it right. 100%. We accept 100% of all applicants that come to our doors. In terms of enrollment, we're looking at about 250,000 students in the UC system, about 500,000 in the CSU system. Anybody want to guess on this one? Somebody got it. 2.1 million. You get the prize. 2.1 million students in the 114 community colleges that we have here in California, which is amazing. So, Bill, in terms of your question about how we get folks through the pipeline and onto a baccalaureate degree, because we're going to be 1 million short of baccalaureate degrees, you can see that the community college as a starting point for folks is a really important element of all of that. So Santa Barbara City College itself, I just wanted to say a little bit about this. It's not only that we change the world one student at a time, we change the world one family at a time. Because what we've found, and we've seen this, those of us that are in the community college world, we see this a lot, where you'll have a student that comes to us that has never been to college in his or her life, and in their family, there is absolutely no history of education in that family's life, ever. So no one in the history of that whole family has ever gone to college. And so when one person goes to college, what ends up happening is a whole culture shift takes place and a whole new appreciation for higher education takes place, where now generations that follow that individual will appreciate education and understand that education is for them. They belong in education. They belong at a college, and they can be as successful as anybody else. And so that's why I think this is such an important concept, that we really do change the world one family at a time when we get into this. Who's been to Santa Barbara City College? Oh, well, what you guys ought to be up here talking about. It is one of the most, I think it's the most beautiful campus in the whole United States. I mean, it is just absolutely spectacular. I think it's prettier than most four-year schools. You walk across that great meadow and you look out over the water there, and I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't been there, call me, come over, I'll give you a tour, let's walk around, I want to show it to you because it's stunning, it really is. But we also have a fantastic academic program, and I have to say that, and I'll just do a little bit of bragging right here since we're on TV. Last week we were notified once again that we are the #1 community college in the United States. Yeah, I'm just really proud of that, and there's a lot of metrics that are involved in figuring out how that actually happens, And it has, in this particular case, in review of the community colleges, the 1,108 community colleges in the United States, it has to do with our online classes that we're offering. It has to do with our career technical education programs that we're offering, and our health programs, nursing in particular. Maybe we'll get a chance to talk about some of that. So anyway, you can also see that we have 19 sports, we have 50 career programs, we're 1,056 steps away from the beach. Always handy, right? And so on and so forth. But the top majors for me is an area that's of interest, where we've got, let's see if I can actually see this thing. Can you guys see it? Okay, so it's biological sciences, business administration, health information technology, nursing, and psychology. Those are our top degree programs. We just graduated, we will graduate this Friday, 68 nurses, RNs from our program. Yes, always great. Love that. The older I get, the more, whenever I go into the hospital, I always ask, did you go to Santa Barbara City College? But our pass rate is, I think it's 100% this year in terms of the board passing rate. It usually is 99.9 or 100% in terms of our students passing the nursing program. But, you know, fantastic. And then we've got what we call tag agreements, which are transfer admission guarantee agreements with four-year schools. And I'm not talking about, you know, any four-year school. I'm talking about if you come here, graduate with an associate degree at Santa Barbara City College, you can go on to UC Santa Barbara, Berkeley, all kinds of places like that, and it's guaranteed. You have guaranteed entrance. Interesting strategy for parents out there and students is that sometimes if they can't get into UC Santa Barbara, for example, through their direct application process, they can come back and go through some classes at Santa Barbara City College and then transfer over that way. Just a little tip, a little hint can be helpful. Here's a basic profile of our students. 37% full-time, 63% part-time, 70% under 25 years of age, and you can see the demographic breakdown. Of course, we have the main campus up on Cliff Drive, and we have Schott and Wake, which are fantastic, you know, off-campus programs that we have, a lot of our adult ed programs there. And then all the different things, these are some of the things that we are doing in the community. The New York Philharmonic, did anybody come to that? New York Philharmonic? That was $10 a ticket, pretty nice. And then all kinds of things with the Santa Barbara City College Foundation Promise, and Geoff's here to talk about that and some other things. Just one of my last slides here, I just wanted to give a shout out to all of the folks at Santa Barbara City College for all that they did during the fire and mudslides. You may not know it, but we had the American Red Cross evacuation center set up there. We served over 150 first responders every night at the campus center. And they didn't want anybody to know that they were up there because we had the evacuation center at the gym, a lot of the folks that were rescued by the folks that were up on the hill at the campus center, and they didn't want them coming up just because they were so exhausted after working 12 and 14-hour days. They didn't want them coming up and bothering them, but it was really a proud moment for the college to be able to do that. And then the Montecito Union School, we actually set up a small school for them to accommodate their 115 K-12 graders that were there, K-12 graders that were there at the school because they couldn't get back. So that's kind of an overview of where we are with all of this and Santa Barbara City College, and I'm so pleased to be here, and I'm so glad that you all are all here, and I know that you're big supporters of the college, and we certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
I'd like to add that we do have simultaneous Spanish translation going on at this moment, and if you need that, you can move up to the front and hear Sylvia translating. Sylvia Rebate is translating. I'd like to also mention something. I don't know if it'll be covered today or not, but I had a dear friend who went to City College who was severely disabled and required a full-time aide, and he graduated from City College in computer science and opened his own business. Thank you, City College.
Batting second will be Geoff Green. I first knew Geoff at UCSB in the 90s when he was on his way in and I was on my way out, and we all called him Curly. Most of us undoubtedly know him from his 18 years with the Fund for Santa Barbara, where he was executive director from 2003 to 2015. In his current iteration, he is Chief Executive Officer of the Santa Barbara City College Foundation. It is also rumored that he is Chairman of the Board of the California Association of Nonprofits. So without further ado, Geoff, you're on.
Thanks so much, Bill, and thank you for the invitation to be part of this. We were just talking about how long we've known each other, and when we got to 25 years, we just stopped. Whatever. And it's good to see a lot of friends and supporters out in the audience today. So good to see many faces, some of whom I haven't seen in a while. My job in the next 10-15 minutes is to give you an overview of the foundation, a little bit about what we do, how we work, how we interact with the college and the community, and then we'll have time to discuss some of those things at the back end. I did ask Bill when invited to do this, should I bring a PowerPoint? And I said, you can bring it if you want. I said, no, really, Bill, should I bring a PowerPoint? He said, I'd really rather you didn't have another PowerPoint. I said, okay, all right, because I have like 75 PowerPoint slides that I could throw up there. So instead, I'm just going to talk. And so I'm going to describe a little bit about what we do and how we do it. So the Santa Barbara City College Foundation is an independent nonprofit organization. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit that was established 42 years ago as a partner to SBCC. Those of you that work, live, or as I say, swim in the nonprofit world know that nonprofits are an entire economic sector in our community and in our country. We actually have, there's a new study out, late last night it was released, 12 million Americans work in the nonprofit sector. Over 1 million of those are in California. So it's a major economic sector. And what we do essentially is build those bridges between people's sort of highest aspirations and values and the work that is happening in community. And the way we do it oftentimes is through transfer of resources. That can be time, volunteer hours, but it's also significant dollars and assets put to work in service of ideals and things that people want to pursue that they believe are important. In the case of higher education, the idea is that private investment can do things sometimes that either can't be done as fast, or experiments that can't be run with public dollars, because there's public dollar streams that support our higher ed systems in California and in the United States. There are some very clear missions and very clear priorities put to those. But oftentimes, in partnership with a nonprofit organization, you can try new experiments. You can do sort of venture philanthropy, if you will, about how, what if we did it this way? What if we tried this? What is the missing piece? And that was really where the foundation came in. Our founders were people that believed in the college. Remember, by the time we came along, the college was already 60-some years old. And many of them were involved in the adult ed program at the time. They recognized the value of lifelong learning. We're actually celebrating, as Anthony mentioned, you'll hear a lot more in a moment from Dr. Moreno, but the 100 years centenary of our adult ed program this year. So folks wanted to offer some resources to the college to do some of these things, to build up some programs that they thought were important. And over those 42 years, we've grown into the largest community college foundation in the state of California, and actually the 5th largest in the country. So this community's generosity, this century-long relationship with the college, has built up a tremendous resource base to help the college. Now, that being said, that is not my anti-fundraising pitch. That's not saying we've got everything we need, thank you very much. It's simply to say that that's a measure of the passion and the resources that people bring to the table when it comes to Santa Barbara City College. If you lay us alongside larger institutions, however, it's funny because we get talked about as though we're a leader in this work, and we're a staff of 12 and we do incredibly innovative things, and I love that, and that's what gets me up in the morning. But you put it alongside USCSB or Stanford or Harvard or any of the other major institutions, and it barely registers. And that's largely because private philanthropy was something that was developed over 200 years ago in the larger Ivy League private colleges. It really was in the last 20 to 30 years that the major public university systems, University of California, Wisconsin, Penn, put it together and now have built up really robust fundraising operations. And it was last Tuesday that community colleges started doing this. So it really does feel that way. We're newer to the game. We have not done this work very long. But I have to say that the innovation that has sprung from that, the fact that the community college mission is so broad-based and there's so many opportunities to do new and interesting things, actually has led to a really remarkable growth of innovation. So let me tell you what we do. Every year, we raise, in a typical year, between $4 and $5 million for our community's college. Most of that is restricted endowments. So over the years, the foundation has about 210 now. I think last night I said 208, and I think that was the right number as of yesterday. So about 210 endowments that were given over the years by people who wanted to support some aspect of the college. Now, this can be an individual scholarship. This can be an individual program of the college. It can be an entire school within the college. It can be a particularly innovative program that supports students through college. And that's really what we get look to do, which is take on those things that really will make sure that something continues or a good idea has the resources behind it to persist year after year. I'll mention a few of the student programs that we do, and I think this is my first entryway into SBCC was actually when I was working with the Fund for Santa Barbara, which is a progressive grassroots community foundation that tended to concentrate on social justice work, community organizing, innovative approaches. The Transitions program that you see at City College was the first thing really on my radar. And this is a program where people who are incarcerated currently prepare for their reentry into the outside world, and college as a piece of that in various ways. And City College actually actively seeks out people who've been incarcerated who, upon their release, want to go on and continue their education at Santa Barbara City College. And to do that, there was actually a group of individuals and small foundations that got together and said, that's a wonderful idea, let's support it. It was actually an individual at City College who started that program. You may have seen a wonderful write-up not that long ago, Martin Leva, and this was founded basically by a brilliant idea, incredible passion for someone who had been through the prison system and gone through college, been successful, and realized that there are certain supports that make that possible if you've taken that path. Another one I want to talk about is SPARK, and that's an acronym, and we have lots of acronyms. Students. Single parents arriving ready for college. There, I had to look into space to get it right. So SPARK is for single parent students who come into the institution and need supports because they are single parents. Now, if those of you that are parents, you know that what it takes to be a parent, the time it takes to be a parent, and some of you have been single parents, and you know the time and energy, and of course the work-life balance, not to mention family life, and all the things, especially maybe your young person has certain special needs. So there's a lot that goes into it. So how do you possibly do that and pursue an education? Well, SPARK was another one of those innovative ideas where, with a little bit of extra support and resources, here's a pathway for those students. Our EOPS programs, of which SPARK is one, Transitions is connected to EOPS as well, tend to be a place of great innovation at the college. The other thing we do is scholarships, and scholarships are well understood. We give every year about $1.1 million in privately supported scholarships. That is over 900 scholarships. It usually goes to over 500 students. Some students do get multiple scholarships. And we just had our scholarship celebration just last week. And that's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate the work that the students have done and gotten scholarships of various sizes and shapes and types for various parts of their higher education pathway. The other thing we do is support individual programs. There's one partnership I do want to just call out, and that is with Cottage Health Systems. So Cottage recognized some time ago that by hiring nurses that were trained in our community, their retention rate and their longevity in their positions was many times what it was when they were recruiting out of area. For those of us that are in Santa Barbara, we know that sometimes a reality check on what it takes to live here, especially with housing costs and other quirks of our community, which we love, makes it very difficult. And so someone who was already in the community, understood the community, had found a way to make that work for themselves, who then went to work in the community, was much more likely to stay in that position than someone who came from afar, decided, this really isn't working, and had to leave. So Cottage has invested now to the tune of about $500,000 a year to support our nursing students. And so that's a 3-year interval that we negotiate that support system. We have corporate supporters, we have foundation supporters, and I'll end on what I consider sort of the most exciting recent innovation, and that is our Promise effort. How many of you know the SBCC Promise? That makes me happy. So the SBCC Promise, this is an idea, it is not ours, so I want to be clear. And I'm really a believer of there's nothing new under the sun. It's a matter of taking the good ideas and putting them together in the right context and the right mix and making it work for your community. And coming from community work, that's what I see this as at SBCC. So what we did is we reached out. This idea goes back to 2005 in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Actually, if you want to trace it back, and I was speaking to the gathered trustee boards last night about this, it really goes back to the higher ed plan of 1960, or even before that. It's simply the notion that every young person in our community deserves a right to an education, access to higher education beyond high school. And the way you do that is to remove as many barriers as possible and offer as many supports. And today, we're in an era where the student debt is a national crisis. And we're talking about it now as such, appropriately. I think we should have been doing so much earlier. We're at $1.4 trillion and rising. There's no way it will be paid off. I will promise you that. Ultimately, there will have to be some other agreements made, debt forgiven. It's not going to happen given the rate that it's being accrued versus the rate that it's being paid down. Now, what do you do about that? Well, there's a lot of possibilities, but one of the things that community colleges can do is offer low-cost access, but also offer supports to make sure that the greatest chance of success is achieved. And the way that is done is by looking at what the data says. And the data says really 3 things. Early enrollment, so we have a robust dual enrollment program at Santa Barbara City College. No gap between your high school and your colleges. Keep going through. The second is that if you surround yourself with supports, you take advantage of academic advising, you have counseling supports, you're going to be much more likely to complete. And the third is that if you're a full-time student, and that sometimes is the hardest with the work-life balance of what happens in modern life for us all. But nonetheless, if we can incentivize those 3 things, the chances of persisting semester to semester to completing on time are much greater. So what we did is we asked the questions, we talked to over 120 community leaders, I talked to probably 24 other regions around the country about this, and came up with our program. And it's essentially the most robust, comprehensive one in the country. We offer 2 years of full support. That's all tuition, all fees, all books, all supplies, all the hard costs of your education for 2 full years to anybody who completes their secondary education in Santa Barbara City College District. That's southern Santa Barbara County. All they have to do is commit to being that full-time student, to take advantage of those supports, and to persist through in good standing with the institution. So we can talk about more of the details of that later, but that's the kind of thing that we're in a position to do. And I lied, I said that was the last one. I'll tell you one more thing. Creatively using resources is the last thing I want to talk about. And that is, and I'll give you one example in 30 seconds. About 2.5 years ago, the Paul Mitchell School in Santa Barbara was closing down. This is the private cosmetology school down on Lower Anacapa, 535 Anacapa Street. It came to the district, they said, hey, we're closing down, do you want the property? They own the property, they own the program. District said, we'd love to, can't afford it, but thanks for asking. And then we had a conversation, and we worked out that, a foundation, I said, well, we could buy that as long as you were the tenant and you leased from us, as opposed to leasing from a private landlord, which was the current arrangement at that time, as long as the numbers work. So if we can hold it as an investment, fix it up, maintain the property, the college can use the property, run the program, and actually expand the program with higher quality facilities in the downtown core with relationships with the local businesses. This could be a very good thing. We're able to do that. We closed escrow. We purchased the building for $5.3 million. We renovated the interior over the last 1.5 years. We are now working on the structural piece, very much hoping that we can get it completed and certified by DSA, which I've learned more about than you ever want to know. By the end of this year, and then we'll have a ribbon cutting. So things like that, creative use of capital, partnerships in the community, that's really what we can be in that bridge. And I'll stop there. Thank you for red carding me. I'm sorry I didn't stop on time.
Our next speaker, who is a doctor, we didn't seem to have room enough on your tent card for your degree, but it's Dr. Melissa Marino. Dr. Moreno is the founding director of Santa Barbara City College's Scheinfeld Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and the founder of SBCC's Career Skills Center, an award-winning program that now serves as a model for other colleges. She is a member of the California State Bar, and most importantly, if you're in the market, a licensed real estate broker. Is there anything that she can't do? Probably not. Most interestingly for me, she is the interim vice president for Santa Barbara City College's School of Extended Learning, known in less polite times as adult education. Melissa, you're on.
Hi, everyone. I am so proud to be part of this dream team over here. I couldn't do what I do without them, and so I'm so lucky to be part of Santa Barbara City College. So thanks for that. Also, you can see faded pictures of where I'm located at the Shot and Wake campuses in our community that don't have an ocean view, and I'm wondering, Anthony, if you can do something about that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of what I've been working on this last year and give you a mini lesson in Noncredit, what that means, talk about a migration project that we did, and touch on our dual enrollment program, and then pass it along to the next speakers. So hopefully I can do all that in 10 minutes. So just a little history. I'm sure everybody here, or almost everyone here, remembers our very robust adult education program back in the day. I've been in this community almost 40 years and remember fondly that catalog that used to sit on the coffee table that you would review and review over and over again and take these amazing free courses. And so I think when Anthony stepped foot on campus a couple of years ago, and this had been a concern of our Board of Trustees for a while, I think that Anthony saw a gap in our community and our lack of robust free programming. And so he says, let's create the School of Extended Learning. And Melissa, why don't you create that? And I said, okay. So, so what the School of Extended Learning is intended to do is maximize our tuition-free programming for the community and triple our offerings over the next couple of years. So I have the benefit of an incredible team that's been helping me move in this direction, and we've made quite a bit of progress in this last year. So what is the School of Extended Learning? Well, what we've done is integrated everything that we already had, including our fee-based programs. So you might remember the Center for Lifelong Learning has a lot of fee-based programs. And so my job was to kind of dismantle that brand and migrate what we could into becoming tuition-free again. And so, yeah, spontaneous clapping is welcome if it... And so now you'll see that we have a lot of tuition-free programming, and in fall will be sort of the inaugural thing for extended learning that we will have pretty much landed where we're going to be for the next few years. And our fee-based program is now going to be limited to these particular topics, and it's because the state won't fund certain topics. So we'll talk about that a little later. And then included in the extended learning program is the dual enrollment program. So I'm going to just give you a few statistics on that toward the end. And of course, our cosmetology program. So what a blast that was to move from our Magnolia campus to downtown corridor at 525 Anacapa Street. And so I encourage all of you to visit and support that program and get a haircut for $7.50. So this is what the state allows us to have in tuition-free programs. So it's basically 10 areas, and so we have built out this last year in almost all of these areas. So you'll see a very robust English as a second language program, and as Geoff mentioned, it is our 100th anniversary of the first English as a second language class in our community in 1918. And so remember this, September 9th, I think you can remember 9/9. It's a Sunday afternoon. We're going to have a garden party at the Wake campus, and the community is welcome to join us to celebrate our 100th anniversary of adult education in our community. But the most notable exclusion of what is not funded by the state is fitness. And it's ironic because probably that's one of the most important areas for older adults to stay active and fit and healthy. And yet fitness is not included as a state-funded program. So we're keeping fee-based for areas that our community is very interested in, but that we can't offer as tuition-free. So here's your little mini lesson in what is non-credit, which is tuition-free, versus what is credit. So both sides of the house, credit and non-credit, we get paid by the state. On the credit side, you get paid for enrollments counted at what we call census days. So the third week into the semester, you count up the students and you send that to the state, and the state will pay you. That's basically a simplified version of what happens. But in non-credit, we actually count the students all semester long, how many hours you're sitting in seats. So it's really important that if you are supporting our tuition-free program, that you come to the classes and you stay in the classes and you keep your butt in that seat for the entire semester so that we can get paid from the state for the time that you're there. Tuition-free has no units. There's no tuition fees. And we're limited to those 10 categories that it was on the earlier slide. And it's unlimited repeatability. So there's some sort of sense of community where you can take the class over and over again. And our instructors are very mindful of the community that we're serving. And we change up sort of some of the exercises or topics or artists or whatever to keep our community engaged. And we also, like credit, have to go through this arduous approval process, and the state of California Chancellor's Office has to approve every single course that we offer that's tuition-free. Our fee-based programs include community service programs. So that's like what the old Center for Lifelong Learning was. It's courses that we charge a fee for. We have to cover our expenses. And then we have a very small but relevant contract education program where we go out in the community and sort of tease employers with some employee training to get them to come to our campus and take the free Career Skills Institute that was mentioned earlier. So we do, at School of Extended Learning, just a little trivia, we train a lot of employees in this community. We train the City of Santa Barbara, we train UCSB employees, we train Santa Barbara City College employees, and it's all free programming, and it's focused on career skills, soft skills, employability skills, and that kind of thing. So the benefits of non-credit curriculum to students is, number one, is tuition free. And we have open entry, open exit options so that it's accessible to everyone. And we really serve as elementary level skill building and course programming that leads to pre-collegiate curriculum. And then we have a whole host of life enhancement or personal enrichment courses in the older adult areas. And we need to be responsive to the needs of our workforce. I can give you a quick example. With the mudslides and the devastation of residents in Montecito, we had hundreds of people lose their jobs that had worked for families for years that needed to re-up skills and find some new work. And so we actually partnered and funded a program that was right here at the public library to help with these folks get trained for re-entry into the workplace. And so we've been able to place several of those folks that were displaced into new jobs in our community. So we worked on this migration project this last year. It was kind of our primary focus to migrate hundreds of courses that were offered for older adults that were charged a fee to become free community offerings. So you'll see, prior to the advent of the School of Extended Learning, the left bar is we had about 1,000 classes that were offered for fee-based. We had existing about 900 courses in tuition-free, and now we've reduced the fee to 350, and we have over 1,500 tuition-free classes. So, and here is a little slide showing you our enrollments. The blue bar is the existing tuition-free from, let's see, that's 2016. And as we've moved, and the orange is the fee-based. So you can see the tuition-free enrollments are growing, and we've reduced the fee-based offerings. So we're still serving the same students, so all of our students are moving over from the fee-based to take tuition-free, but you can see quite a few more students are now excited and joining the tuition-free where the fees were a barrier to prior. So that's School of Extended Learning. I want to just touch quickly on our dual enrollment program. So the dual enrollment program has sort of a threefold mission, and the first one is to develop and maintain partnerships in our community. So we're partnered with both of our K-12 districts, Carpinteria Unified and Santa Barbara Unified, and 5 local high schools. So this shows you in very tiny print, Santa Barbara High, Dos Pueblos, San Marcos, Carp, and we also just opened a program at Bishop. And so we're serving about 2,000 students every semester in our dual enrollment programs in the high schools. So that's where we bring college programming into the high schools. And the second focus is on access and equity. And so here's an example of San Marcos High building enrollments from about 700 to over 1,000, and yet continuing to serve the Hispanic students in the community at a level that's reflective of the total San Marcos High School enrollments. And an example of the SBCC Foundation helping the dual enrollment program is the prohibitive textbook costs of a college course. So this past year we had a book grant that SBCC Foundation funded for $13,000, and that allowed 100 students to participate in a summer session that otherwise could not participate in because of the prohibitive textbook costs. And finally, the third is opportunity for all. And so this is an example of a semester. We have over 100 sections offered per semester in our community, and we have partnered with our academic and CTE programs at SBCC with over 23 participating academic departments, and that's a real feat because we have to get our academic programs on board and coordinated to be offering all of these courses in the high school in our community. So it's a pretty amazing program. So there you go. Thank you very much for having us. I look forward to the discussion.
Well, moving right along, Professor Matthew Mooney, who is not the chair of his department, to the regret of many, I'm sure. There was some fake news about that we regret and apologize for. Matt Mooney is a proud product of the California Community College system. After 2 years at Orange Coast College, he went on to graduate school at UCLA before joining Santa Barbara City College's History Department, where he won student recognition as a pioneer in using the latest digital technology for classroom instruction. A man of the future. And you're on that. And let me see here.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. If I wasn't here, I would be grading final exams, so thank you very much. This is a nice break. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to represent Santa Barbara City College. I still vividly remember the phone call I got 13 years ago offering me a full-time position in the history department, and I felt literally as though I had won the lottery. And I still feel that way. It's a privilege to work at Santa Barbara City College. It's a privilege to work with our remarkable students. And I also need to say that I deeply appreciate the freedom that our administration gives us to try new things, to innovate, to better meet the needs of our students, and address the challenges facing higher education in California. And by the way, I apologize for reading, but as soon as I leave the classroom, I'm out of my comfort zone. So, there is, of course, no magic bullet, no panacea for the challenges we face. I would, however, like to suggest that digital learning, online learning, can play a crucial role in helping to meet these challenges. Online courses give our students more of the flexibility that they need to complete their program of study at City College, enabling them to move on to university or to their chosen career. Before I discuss the role that online learning can play, however, I want to acknowledge that many folks, including some of my own colleagues and maybe many of you here, remain skeptical about the efficacy of online education. Online courses, they maintain, are inferior to traditional on-campus courses. As an Ivy League scholar recently opined in the New York Times, online education is a one-size-fits-all endeavor. It tends to be a monologue and not a real dialogue. The internet teacher, even one who responds to students via email, can never have the immediacy of contact that the teacher on the scene can, with his sensitivity to unspoken moods and enthusiasms. This is particularly true of online courses for which the lectures are already filmed and in the can. It doesn't matter who's sitting out there on the internet watching. The course is what it is. Whereas in real courses, the students and teachers come together and create an immediate and vital community of learning. Wow. So this critique savages the online course as static, canned, unengaging, and ultimately not real. Fake learning, as we might say these days. And this critique reflects a common perception that online learning is robotic and disconnected and alienating, ultimately. The fact is, however, I don't recognize the online course described above. The idea that online courses are simply lectures that are already filmed and in the can bears little resemblance to how online learning actually works. Now, I review online courses for the state through a program called the Online Education Initiative, OEI. And most of the courses I review are designed effectively. They incorporate relevant, valid content, they have meaningful activities and assessments, and they are taught by talented instructors who foster participation and collaboration amongst their students. Now, have I ever reviewed bad online courses? Sure, a few. They're out there, but let's be honest, were all of the classes you took on campus amazing? Mine weren't. So online learning is different, but it's not necessarily inferior to on-campus learning. And in some ways, it can be better. After all, in a good online course, there is no back row. In other words, students can't hide. Everybody interacts, everybody participates, repeatedly and in depth, multiple times each and every week. To give you a small taste of the work students are doing in our online courses, I'd like to share with you a snippet from a multimedia project completed this week by my student, Amber Green, who is currently finishing up History 102, Introduction to Modern U.S. History. She did great work all semester, and her final project, a video documentary discussing the impact of the Cold War on the civil rights movement, was excellent. She built her presentation on the analysis of primary and secondary sources, and improved it after multiple rounds of feedback from her instructor and her classmates. We do lots of peer review in my online courses. They're not isolating. So let me run just a moment of this.
In a way, the Cold War sparked the fire beneath the American Civil Rights Movement. As the Cold War raged on, America and the USSR competed for dominance as world powers, as well as the favors and alliances of other countries. During the span of the Cold War, from 1947 through 1964, America attempted to gain such alliances abroad. However, their lack In a way, the Cold War sparked the fire beneath the American Civil Rights Movement. As the Cold War raged on, America and the USSR competed for dominance as world powers, as well as the favors and alliances of other countries. During the span of the Cold War, from 1947 through 1964, America attempted to gain such alliances abroad. However, their lack of civil liberties prompted other nations, especially the Soviet Union, to point out their hypocrisy and hindered their efforts. Other countries were untrusting of Americans and the democratic system they advocated, as cases like that of Emmett Till, Rosa Parks, and the Little Rock Nine were widely publicized. Other countries, especially those in the midst of decolonization, such as India and especially Africa, were wary of trusting America's loyalty to prospective alliances considering their treatment of their own citizens, should they happen to be people of color, as in the case of the Little Rock Nine.
So I wanted to show you a bit of Amber's project to demonstrate not only that online students can produce quality work, but I also wanted to highlight Amber's project because she's a single mom, she works full-time, and takes a full load of classes as a first-generation college student. It would be very difficult, if not completely impractical, for Amber to take all of her required courses on campus. She, like many of our students at SBCC, has many responsibilities demanding her attention: work and family and school. She leads a busy and complicated life. The ability to complete at least some of her courses online gives Amber the flexibility to build a course schedule that works for her. Now, it would be wonderful if every last one of our students had the time, resources, and opportunity to attend college full-time on campus, to enjoy the many academic and social opportunities offered at City College. Geoff Green and the SBCC Foundation are doing amazing work through the Promise program to make this possible for more of our students. But the reality is, coming to campus full-time is a privilege, an advantage unavailable to many of our students. When students can't get to campus at the times the classes they need are offered, they can't complete their degree on time. And that may mean the end of the road for their college dream, because enrolling for an extra semester or 2 or 3 or more might not be financially feasible. Online courses give students choice, and choice is powerful, especially for first-generation, low-income, and older students who are more likely to hold jobs and juggle family responsibilities while pursuing a degree. A recent study, Retention, Progression, and the Taking of Online Courses, showed that students enrolled in a mix of online and on-campus classes are actually more likely to progress from the first year to their second year of college than are students enrolled only in online courses, as well as those who only enroll in on-campus classes. The study concluded, quote, "Despite media reports to the contrary, taking online courses is not necessarily harmful to students' chances of being retained and may provide course-taking opportunities that otherwise might not be available, especially for non-traditional students." This is an important finding, and one we should take into consideration as we strategize ways to improve completion and transfer rates. So ultimately, online courses can play a key role in ensuring students are able to meet their academic goals. Please feel free to contact me if you're interested in learning more about teaching online. In fact, I'll be teaching a course through SBCC's School of Extended Learning this fall called Teaching with Humanizing Technology, and I would be happy to tell you more about it. Thanks.
Well, that was too late. It's too late for me, but it seems like a very good idea for aspiring teachers to tune in. Our next speaker is going to be Krystle Farmer. Speaking of single moms, Krystle is a single mother of two who is currently finishing up her final year and plans to transfer to either UC Riverside or San Diego with a long-term goal of getting a law degree at UCLA. She is currently a UMOJA, I guess, student coordinator. UMOJA, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, means unity in Swahili and is a program designed to help Black students successfully transfer to four-year institutions. She also holds the position of student advocate on Santa Barbara City College's Associated Student Government. She will succeed David, who is not here. He was detained by a meeting on campus, I believe. So you will be our student advocate. Come right on up.
Hello, everybody. I do not have a PowerPoint because finals. Yeah, wasn't gonna happen. But I'm always good at winging it, so I will speak from the heart, which I usually do. But hello, I am a student at Santa Barbara City College. I have been there since 2013, so I've been there for a while, and a lot because of socioeconomical reasons. I'm a single mom of two very beautiful children. I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son, so it's been a little difficult to maneuver through the community college system. So I briefly kind of read a little bit of the study that was done, and what I kept seeing was things like words like marginalized, underrepresented, undervalued, and pretty much how to successfully get them from college on to higher education, UCs, Cal States. And I, as a product of a lot of these programs like EOPS, which they spoke of Spark, definitely agreed to the study that in that avenue, we need a lot of work. One of the things I've really realized that's not working too well is the whole IGETC system. If you're not familiar with that, it's pretty much the avenue you have to go through to complete sort of the requirements you have for your major to transfer on to the UC system. This especially doesn't work for re-entry students or students like me. I'm a re-entry into college, and also single parent students. Especially if you've been out in the workforce, you've worked in corporate America, you've gotten certain certifications, you've done a lot of things, and then you have to come and take 3 different English classes and several different math classes when math has really nothing to do with what you want to do in life. And all these sciences with labs, and some of these labs are like 6 p.m. to 11:50 p.m. As a single mom, I'm like, where do you think I have this time to be somewhere from 6 to 11:50 p.m.? I have kids, I have to get them to bed, I have to do all this. So these are a lot of the requirements that we have to be able to transfer on to the next phase in our life. And you lose students like that. They drop out, they can't complete the IGETC requirements. Reasons why I've been at CC for 5 years is because of the IGETC requirements and how to transfer on. So that's a little bit about that. But also just talking about specifically because I am a Black student, I advocate for Black students a lot at CC. And there's very low retention rates for Black students at Santa Barbara City College. The dropout rate is really high, and we are the lowest performing in all academic departments at SBCC currently. And a lot of this is due to, I'll just say it and put it out there, a lot of funding doesn't go to support us. We take it towards the majority of the population, and we are a Hispanic serving institution. And so focusing on a lot of these programs that we're talking about, like Sparks and Transitions, and getting students to the point where they can succeed through the community college level and transfer on, is by offering these programs more support. So currently, like I said, I'm a product of the Spark department. It's a 6-week summer bridge program where you have a lot of reentry students of color coming from domestic violence situations, substance abuse situations, low income situations. So you put them in a program for 6 weeks, and then after that, you're kind of spoon-fed in the program, I'm gonna be honest, because I like to be honest in conversations. You're spoon-fed throughout the program, and then you're taken off to then go through a 16 weeks of full-time, full course, educational plan with little support after that. We get a lot of dropouts. A lot of single mothers do not succeed. We all know the statistics for that in higher education about the single mother rates for graduating, which blows my mind because we're raising the future. We should be supported way more than we are. So programs like these, I'm kind of at the point with programs like these where how do we sustain them and make them more successful so we do have people transferring on and they are successful. Same with transitions. These are people dealing with rehab, substance abuse, domestic violence. They're coming out of the whole pipeline, the prison system that we all know about in this country that is a major problem. And you put them through this 6-week summer bridge program, and then once again, you're let out into the world with not as much support as you had in that transitions program, and then you're told to succeed and do I get C when you're also trying to work, when you're also living in a sober living home, you don't have Wi-Fi at your house, you don't have all these things that the traditional college student has to succeed. So these are a lot of issues I see happening with why a lot of students, especially students of color, and especially Black students, aren't succeeding in moving on to SBCC. And then when we implement programs, so we do have a program now that I work for that's called Umoja. It's Umoja. It's okay. It means unity in Swahili. It's been around for 13 years. CC just got it, I believe, in fall semester of 2017. And so I work for it currently now. And it's at most community colleges throughout California, and UC Riverside just adopted it as well, and I believe another UC will be bringing it onto their campus. But it's to help Black students achieve academic success, because we all know we're a very low population in California, and we're a very low population in colleges across California, period. And actually, a recent study just came out, and it actually said that it's not because we're not applying, it's because we're not getting accepted into colleges. So that was actually very disappointing to see. So hopefully Umoja will bridge that gap and help us move on. But an important part of this is supporting these programs that are supporting these marginalized students. And support meaning more than just writing a check and putting your money to the program. Support means having not just the Black faculty and staff support the programs, but also the non-Black faculty and staff support the programs so that they can succeed. Hiring people that can properly run the program, that have experience in running the program. Hiring more Black faculty and staff. Representation is important, visibility is important so that you can see yourself and succeed. And I only speak to this because I am a product of this. I have done many, many, many things at SBCC and surpassed what many people would have thought I could do as a single mother. I'm sitting on the board, I work for Umoja, I do a lot of community organizing as well and have done many of these presentations and many of these talks. But with that being said, that doesn't mean that I still don't struggle every day as a student, as a Black woman, especially in Santa Barbara, where we are marginalized. And so my goal is, how do we get more students like me to be able to access these spaces and do these things that I've been able to do? And through that is through supporting some of these programs more so that they can transfer on, so that they have the ability to stay in school, get their education, and move on to the next phase in their life. I just see so many, just speaking to a personal experience, there's about 10 students now currently in our BSU that will not be continuing to go to CC come fall because they don't feel like this is a place for them. They don't feel comfortable here. They don't feel like they're supported enough. And, you know, it breaks your heart because you see all these other students succeeding, all these other programs that are geared towards helping these large populations succeed and move on and graduate, but you keep wondering why these studies come out and they literally show that there is a group, a racial group that is not succeeding and not moving on, and why that is not being addressed. I believe that you can, you're only as good as your lowest performing group. So if the Black students are doing well, that means all students at SBCC are doing well and they will succeed. I think this should be a priority at SBCC, and I plan on working tirelessly to make this a priority because Black academic success is everything. And we talk about wanting to see Black students at these colleges, at these universities, and succeed more by seeing that they need to graduate and get degrees so that they can get the jobs, right? So in order to see that and have visibility and have representation, we need to care about them from the community college level. Actually, I would argue from the high school level, from the elementary school level, we need to be putting support into this community in Santa Barbara so that our Black students, even a prime example, a lot of Black students are left out of statistics right here in Santa Barbara, in the school. I did a program with Just Communities called Talking in Class, which is a great program, by the way, and I loved being in it, but Black students weren't even in the statistics for the schools. And that's sad. When you're looking at something and you don't see yourself and you're not even represented, how do you expect somebody to go to school every day and succeed and want to get their education and want to stay there throughout all the barriers that you already experience in the outside world that you also have to experience within education? So there is work that's always needed to be done, and we just have to be willing to do the work. And I know SBCC is #1. I personally have had, despite all my barriers and challenges, I have had an amazing experience there. There is things that I have done there that I wouldn't have been able to do at a lot of other schools. A lot of opportunities I've had. I've been to countless amounts of conferences. I spoke at a manager's meeting, which students aren't even allowed in. So that was very interesting. But with that being said, I also recognize my privilege in that. And because I'm powerful and bold and can go in spaces and speak, and that are not a lot of Black students are gonna come with that same approach to things. So how do we represent them and how do we get them to the point where they can experience the same things as me? And now, I don't know the history of SBCC, but I don't know when is the last time we've had a Black woman on the board of trustees that is a single mom, that is low income. So that is amazing. That shows that we're making progress and we're doing amazing things, but we can always do better. And thank you. With that, I end my time.
The future is in good hands. Now we enter into our period of open questioning. I think we have 2 people that will be having microphones. Please wait until you are given the hand mic before you ask your question. And you can hand in your cards and I'll receive them. We're on time here. My Army training has come to my rescue on many occasions. I always remember when they say, one of the first rules you learn is know your enemy. I love to remind myself of that. Okay, here's a question, As a 501c3, does the foundation accept volunteers to help with your work and mission? Geoff, that's for you.
Yes. So as a 501c3, we're structured like many that you'd be familiar with. So we have a board of directors, which the majority of which are volunteers in our community. I think I mentioned we have a staff of 12 professional staff. We do have various periods throughout the year where we make use of volunteer folks that step forward and want to volunteer, and it can be everything from acknowledging donor support to putting together events. There's a cycle of work throughout the year, so it looks different from month to month, but the short answer is yes, we do accept and work with and appreciate the generosity of volunteers.
Here's a question. With the California goal of 30% carbon reduction by 2030, how is Santa Barbara City College training and preparing students for the jobs of the future? This will affect every occupation. Thank you. Anybody?
I can maybe start off with this a little bit. We have at the college a college sustainability plan, and it's deep and broad. And what I mean by that is that it's not only doing things like setting up our solar panel system, where we have a 200 kW solar panel system over our carports, but it's also integrating sustainability in the classroom wherever we possibly can. And we particularly have done that in our horticulture programs. We have our permaculture program that's converting things like some of our grassy areas to actually producing vegetables. And we're growing vegetables right on campus, which is kind of nice. And those vegetables then go into the food source in our cafeterias and so on and so forth. That's just one example of how we're trying to produce students that not only have a rich academic background in transfer programs and things, but also have an understanding of sustainability and how they can improve that.
Thank you. Here's a creative sort of question. Has to do with the emoji and EOPS. It says dual enrollment. What relationship, if any, do Santa Barbara City College students at the entry level have with extended learning students? And is there a role as mentors and supporters in both directions? Is there any interchange there?
I can.
And that would be you, Melissa, please.
Yeah, I can try. So our dual enrollment students are very interested in earning credit. That's one of the primary reasons for the dual enrollment, so that they can get ahead in their college educational plan. But we are working for the first time with our dual enrollment students during the summer in integrating non-credit programs. So for the first time, we've offered some of these employability skills that I was talking about to our dual enrollment students, so that they learn time management and process improvement and those kinds of things. So there's this huge gap we have with what employers think their workforce is and what the workforce thinks they have. So the employers think, oh, you know, we really need to fill that gap of these soft skills, but recent college grads think that they have all of these soft skills, which they don't really. So we're working to front load those career skills with the dual enrollment students before they ever enter a college class or the workforce. So we've done a little partnering there.
Thank you. Here's a sort of technical question. Are credits for courses at Santa Barbara City College aligned specifically with major unit requirements at UCSB? I know the units are accepted for graduation and all that, but are they aligned up with the department's unit requirements for the major?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we offer hundreds of courses, so depending on the curricular pattern that you're taking or your major, if the major is lined up with what UCSB is offering in their degree program, and you go through that TAG program that I was talking about, then they would be aligned. But obviously, you can take a smattering of classes that wouldn't be aligned. So it just depends on what the major is.
Yeah, alignment's a very good thing, because if you show up at UCSB not having fulfilled the major requirement, you've got to take that course.
Absolutely.
That's time and money. So the alignment of these courses, I think, would be very desirable.
Bill, just one comment on
Yeah.
that. That's why it's so critically important for students to connect up with an academic counselor so that the academic counselor can make sure that everything is lined up exactly with the way you're wanting to proceed with your degree program.
Absolutely. Here's a explosive question. We're reading all the time about problems with free speech on campus, and so I'd like to ask, does SBCC have any guidelines or restrictions on free speech?
Well, it's interesting that you bring this one up. I'm not sure who asked it, but free speech is one of those kind of evolving concepts on California, well, just actually university and college campuses across the country. And there used to be at the SBCC campus free speech areas, and these were pretty tightly controlled areas, pockets around the campus where people could exercise free speech. And so what we decided to do, I guess it was about a month ago, it wasn't that long ago, was to take that whole concept of the footprint of the college that had pockets where free speech was available, and basically flip that over so that the entire campus footprint is a free speech area, with areas that are, because of health and safety or whatever it might be, areas that you wouldn't be able to do free speech, like on the bridge or something like that where it could be dangerous. So, the entire footprint of the Santa Barbara City College campus is a free speech area.
Well, that's good. If you have something to say, maybe you should go over there and say it. Do I see any hands for questions? I have one here.
The role of the League of Women Voters is to promote voting, to register voters and educate voters. Education is one of our issues and goals. And I am so pleased that this is videotaped today, because this panel, you imparted a great deal of information that people need to hear and see, and it is going to be on TV and our website. My question is, what kind of outreach do you do to parents of students in high school so that they're aware of all these options that you've shown us today?
So thank you for that question. Our dual enrollment program is a major program that kind of serves as marketing for the Santa Barbara City College. I don't think there's a single student in our local high schools that hasn't taken at least one dual enrollment class. The goal of the program is to make sure that every high school student can say, I'm a Santa Barbara City College student. And so I think just by virtue of having that program, there's marketing, but we also have a whole outreach team that visits all of the local high schools, and we do all of the tabling events and college fairs. And so we're out there marketing probably 2 to 3 times a semester actually in the high school setting.
I would just add a couple things to that with respect to the introduction of the Promise effort. Part of the idea of an effort like that is to actually change thinking way upstream. There's a broader recognition now, and especially in the last few years, of how early decisions are made within families, families of all types, about whether a young person is going to go to school or not, going on to college, beyond high school, or even complete high school. And those assumptions are made in very direct ways, but also very subtle ways. So the earlier that a family understands that college is an option, if they assumed otherwise, and that could be because parents have no experience with college, first and family, first generation college going students. It could be economic barriers, it could be other challenges in the home or in the broader community. And the further upstream you go, so I say this in the spirit of, we also send our Promise staff out with the high school counseling teams that go into the schools and sort of provide that bridge. But there's a longer term vision here, which is that this gets introduced, and we talked about this briefly last night, at kindergarten enrollment. So as families enroll students in kindergarten, it is that knowledge is passed on that, by the way, when you're 13 years from now, here's one option for your student to go on to college. So the more that's understood broader and more broadly in the community and earlier age, behaviors actually change, and there's a lot of evidence for that. There's one example I use, and that was what Santa Ana has done. They have a Promise effort. It's not as robust as ours, but it is far, far more robust in its outreach. They actually do a door-knocking canvas campaign within the entire district every year. They have integrated it now with their kindergarten enrollment. And so that's the kind of thing that we're heading toward. And I would give us a few years before we fully get there, but that's the idea, that the idea of community college and Santa Barbara City College in particular is something that people understand as an option for themselves, their families, and their communities very early on.
So I'm in my 38th year of education, the last 10 through City College, so I could give a lot of compliments. But focusing on Dr. Moreno's area, the enrollment process is really overwhelming for some people, as I'm sure you know. But I do want to say your staff at Wake and Schott are both really, really great at helping us older adults to manage that rather difficult situation. And also the catalog is also confusing because the older adults classes are way in the back and you're looking under subjects, but it's not there because, so that may need a little bit of revision, but the classes are great and I really compliment you in sort of every aspect. Volunteer opportunity, some people asked about. One is through the ESL department, you can be a tutor, or you can actually, at the Learning Center, be a tutor of students. So that's one way. I do it here, but I have a City College student as my learner. You can also do it on campus. That's one enriching volunteer opportunity. Thank you.
My question is to Krystle. What words would you have for students to become student leaders? And what would you say about the power of students' voice to affect their community and their governance of their time at the college? I speak from a former, I was on the student government, so I know all the time you have to put in meetings and everything else. And what inspired you to get, step up and take these roles?
Well, to answer the inspiration question first, Chelsea Lancaster, she is the SPA coordinator in EOPS, and that woman is God sent. She is amazing. You will hear countless amount of students talk about this woman. She is a single mother herself. She went to SBCC, graduated from UCSB, currently getting her master's right now. But I came in 2013, just out of a really toxic relationship, single mother. And she just spoke life into me and inspired me. And when I would drop out and come back, she would be right there with open arms, continuing to speak life into me. Anytime I'm going through anything, I can go in there and talk to her. And she is also a community organizer and an activist. And I just ended up following in her footsteps and then kind of created my own path from there and blossomed into what I do today. As far as being a student leader, as Chelsea will tell you, it was just always in me. She saw it and she saw me before I even saw me. I believe you are called to do the things that you do. I believe I was called on to do this. And see that in other people as well. Being a student leader is important. As long as you just remember that one thing, the wheels of social justice move slow. A lot of students will give up, and the fight is hard, but you just have to keep going, and you have to just keep going forward and telling yourself that I'm doing the right thing. And you also have to not burn your bridges. That's important. My boss, Dr. Chris Johnson, tells me that all the time, because sometimes I like to come to these meetings blazing hot. But institutions are ran the way they are. There is governance for a reason. There's policies for a reason. You have to be strategic about what you're doing. So learning that and growing and developing and accessing those spaces where you can learn and grow and develop. When I first came to CC, I was just in the Spark. Then I went and worked for the equity department, and I learned about that. I got a lot of training in there. And then from there, I was like, I want to be in student government. So I learned the law side, the governance side, the policy side, Robert's rules, Brown rules. And then I was able to sit on the committees, and now I'm able to, work with Dr. Beebe, work with Geoff Green, work with Dr. Melissa Marino, work with other faculty, staff, and admin at SBCC. And also just letting students know that pressure is important. If you have something to say or you want something to say, get students together, create strategic plans, move forward, read the policies, read your laws as a student, your rights, and then ask to meet with the administration, show up at committee meetings, do things like that. One thing I can say is throughout all my struggles at SBCC, they're not the enemies. They want to work with us the best way that they can, but we have to come forward, and we have to, sometimes, they're in their offices, which I like to think of it as like a tier thing. They're so up here, they don't realize what's going on down here. So sometimes it does take those student leaders to voice their concerns and say, hey, this is happening. But to any student leaders that may be watching this, or any of you that have deal with students on a daily basis or advising them, just keep telling them to keep moving forward, that the wheels of social justice move slow, and we will see change. You saw it with the civil rights movement, and just keep going forward, and don't be afraid to access those spaces. I think I let go of fear a long time ago in my journey along to Black liberation. I'm not afraid to do anything. I'm not afraid to have my voice heard, and I'm not afraid to say the uncomfortable things that a lot of people aren't afraid to say, because your truth is powerful and it needs to be heard. So yeah, don't fear, access those spaces, because they need our voices. Our voices aren't at the table, and they need to be at the table. So that's what I would say. Keep accessing those spaces, and always be willing to learn. Never put yourself in a position where you think you know it all, because I definitely love learning, and you learn, and you're gonna learn from all of them too. You'll move on in life and realize that you take different things you've seen and different interactions from people, and you've learned, like, oh, I'll probably be a president of a school later and be like, wow, I learned this from Dr. Beebe. You just never know. So,
well, speaking of Dr. Beebe, Dr. Beebe would like to get his oar in here. And then we have another speaker up front.
I don't want to say a lot, but I do want to tell you that if you haven't figured this out, Krystle Farmer is a force of nature. And she's making history at the college in a lot of ways, and she's been a great educator for me. She's not just a student leader, but she's a leader. And you are the first single Black mother student trustee at Santa Barbara City College ever. So wow. I just wanted you to know that.
This was initially directed at Dr. Beebe, but it's open to anyone who else wants to comment. And I'm wondering what your vision is for our city college, say 5 years from now. Where would you like to see us? What role? Can you envision a changing role? Just general comment.
Well, just as a general comment, and I'll turn it over to some other folks here, but obviously, we want the adult education program, our School for Extended Learning, to come back and be as robust as it was. We had the signature program in the state of California, if not the nation, at one point, and we want to regrow that and bring that back to the way it was. I also believe that our completion rates can be improved significantly. You know, I talked about access to higher education and opening the doors to all to be able to get a higher education. That's just one piece of it. Once they get through the doors, we've got to make sure that they're going to be successful. And, you know, some of the things that Krystle was talking about, Melissa was talking about, Geoff was talking about, Dr. Mooney was talking about in terms of being able to have those students be successful and complete their degree program is something that I want to see us be able to accomplish in the future. So next 3 to 5 years, I want to be able to see that.
And I don't know much about this, and I don't know if we have any committee members on this panel, but CC has undergone a major, is going to undergo a major transformation with the Guided Pathways project. And so this hopefully addresses some of the work that needs to be done. But from what I understand of the work that we have to do, it's basically working degrees and majors backwards. And our website and everything is going to be changing the way that we address the student needs. And I think Krystle spoke to a prevalent issue of students, number one, staying at Santa Barbara City College for too long and sort of wandering through the curriculum without having the focus that's needed to really create this pathway for transfer and career. And so the Guided Pathways Initiative is being led by a committee, and I think that's going to be transformative over the next 5 years in terms of how students navigate through our system.
Question over here.
Hi, this question is for Dr. Beebe. Well, actually, it might be for anybody, but with the community colleges accepting 100% of applicants, I mean, that's a huge endeavor. How does the college determine or prepare for increases or needs of the community as population increases? Where do they get that information?
Well, just in terms of preparing to receive 100% of the students that apply to the college is a difficult task, I have to be honest with you. We have about 78% of the students that come to us that when they're assess into less than college level reading, writing, and math. And so that means that we have to have all kinds of support services to be able to help them be successful. And we have those in our counseling department, we have those in our faculty. Many of our faculty members actually help remediate students in their class, whether it's a college level class or not. And so that helps them kind of get ready for it in that sense. I'm not sure, is that what you were after?
How do you fit everybody in? How do you prepare? I imagine that the online programs help a lot of that or can assist with some of that. But how do you ensure that you have enough instructors? How do you ensure that you have enough resources available to care for 100% of the students as population continues to increase?
Well, it's a huge mathematical problem that we've got in terms of being able to figure all of that out. And we have, staff that be able to figure it out in technology. But the online classes really is an element of helping us with that. But, the online class environment's not a silver bullet either, because you can't just put in an unlimited number of students into Professor Mooney's class, for example, in history, and hope that they're going to be successful. He wants to have interaction with them, good effective contact with them, and so on. And so you limit the size of those online classes as well. So they're not just a silver bullet to answer, all the questions about size and everything. So there's a lot of strategic planning that comes in to play when we're talking about the size of the college, the optimal size of the college, and how we accommodate all those students.
Melissa, next.
Well, so in the past 5 or 6 years or so, as we experienced a great recession, we had a tremendous amount of students and we were beyond capacity of how and so that was really difficult. And the California Community College funding model also complicates this matter, because if you're set up to have 13,000 students, for example, and 17,000 suddenly come through the doors, it presents a fiscal challenge for us as well. But when the economy is doing well, people have jobs, or they're able to afford to go to a 4-year, then enrollments decline. And so it's very cyclical, and over the years we've been through all of the cycles, and I think right now we're leveling off after the recovery of the economy. So we have about 13,500 students at this time, which is about our comfortable capacity. So we, I think probably Dr. Mooney can attest to the fact that during that difficult recession where we had overcapacity, we had students sitting on the floors and trying to crash classes, and it was a difficult time to manage, and I'm sure we'll see that again.
Question from
Hi.
the center here.
For 3.5 years, I was the program coordinator for the Santa Barbara City College Center for Sustainability. And I was invited every semester to come to the Work and Career Center and let people know what we were doing. But I heard the most amazing information from everyone they invited that was to help students make their way through the college in the best way possible. And I hadn't heard anyone speak about it today, but I thought if I'd had that information when I was a student, that I could have traveled through so much more successfully. And so I just wanted to make that plug for if anyone wants to. I don't remember the name of the Career and Work Center. It's McCall Work.
It's the Shaw Career Center.
Yes, it was so valuable.
Thank you for that.
Well, do I see a hand? Well, Santa Barbara City College is a world-class community college, and we have had a world-class panel here today, and I would like us to give them a hand. Thank you all for coming. Tell your friends to watch it on TV.